The night was never silent. In the distance, a low howl rose beneath the stars, haunting, hungry, relentless. For our fragile ancestors, it was not just sound, it was a warning. Wolves were near. At 5.9 million years ago, before fire, before weapons of iron, small bands of early humans huddled together against the dark. They were small, slow, and defenseless compared to the predators that hunted them. Yet none struck more terror than wolves, swift, intelligent, and merciless hunters who stalked in packs. Every glowing eye in the shadows, every crunch of leaves, every howl across the plain forced a choice: fight, flee, or perish. Survival meant more than strength. It demanded courage, unity, and cunning. This is the untold story of how humans survived wolf attacks, a battle of instinct against strategy, of prey against predator. Stay tuned and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more epic stories of survival. The Africa of 5.9 million years ago was a place of transition. The forests were thinning, grasslands spreading wide, and the creatures of both environments were locked in constant struggle. Among them roamed our ancestors' small bands of Australopithecus, fragile yet determined, wandering the edges of woodland and plain in search of food. But they were not alone. Wolves prowled the same lands, sharp-nosed, sharp-toothed, driven by hunger and the instinct to hunt in packs. These were not the wolves of today, sleek and grey, but their ancestors, leaner, wilder, just as cunning. They had perfected the art of cooperation, outmatching solitary predators with their numbers and coordination. For early humans, the wolf was a nightmare made real. Stronger, faster, and armed with jaws that could shatter bone, wolves could ambush at night or stalk prey for miles. A single human was no match, but together, with shouts, stones, and sheer determination, our ancestors found ways to endure. This is the story of humanity's earliest encounters with wolves, their fear, their strategies, and the lessons learned in blood and survival. The world of 5.9 million years ago was alive with danger. Africa's landscape stretched wide, rolling grasslands broken by pockets of forest, marshes, and rivers that shimmered under the sunday. Rain fell in brief, heavy bursts, leaving stretches of drought that forced every living thing to fight for survival. For our ancestors, small bands of Australopithecus, this was a world of teeth and claws where every shadow might conceal death. They were not alone in their struggle. Lions prowled the tall grass, crouching low until they sprang in golden fury. Hyenas, with their bone-crushing jaws, lurked at the edges, ready to steal a kill. Leopards slid silently through the branches, eyes glowing in the dark. Crocodiles waited in ambush beneath muddy waters, where a single misstep meant jaws snapping shut forever. But among these predators, one rose above, the rest in cunning and persistence: the wolf. Unlike lions, wolves did not hunt alone. Unlike leopards, they did not vanish into trees. They came together, in packs, coordinated and relentless. Where one wolf failed, many succeeded. For fragile humans, barely a meter tall, wolves were a nightmare made flesh. The howl of a wolf carried across the plains like a warning from the dark. It was not just a sound, it was a promise. The pack was near. The world of predators shaped every decision our ancestors made. They learned to walk in groups, to post watches, to scan the horizon constantly. But no preparation ever erased the fear of wolves. These creatures mirrored them in dangerous ways, moving together, hunting together, thinking together. The savannah was filled with predators, but it was the wolf that taught humanity the cruelest lesson: that survival was not just about strength, but about outsmarting those who could think as one. The first time our ancestors heard the howl, they froze. It came from beyond the trees, low and drawn out, echoing under the night sky. At first, it was strange, unlike the roar of lions or the laughter of hyenas. But when it came again, closer, their blood chilled. Instinct told them what their minds did not yet know. Something was hunting. The band huddled tighter, clutching infants, gripping sticks and stones. They had no fire to keep the dark at bay, no walls to protect them. The night was absolute, pierced only by the pale light of the moon and the burning gleam of eyes in the distance. Then came the rustle of grass. A shape moved at the edge of vision, another to the left, another behind. The wolves were circling, testing, closing in. Their paws padded silently over the earth, their breath rising in white puffs in the cool air. The humans screamed high, sharp cries meant to startle. Stones flew into the dark, a wolf yelped, retreating. But the pack did not scatter. They lingered, watching, waiting. For hours, the band endured. Every movement in the grass, every flicker of eyes sent waves of panic through them. They knew the wolves were faster, stronger, more numerous. But they also learned something that night. Wolves did not rush blindly. They probed, they tested, they waited for weakness. When dawn broke, the wolves melted away, shadows dissolving into light. The band, exhausted and trembling, understood the danger now. This was not a predator they could ignore. Wolves would not simply appear and vanish, they would return, again and again, until opportunity favored them. That first encounter carved fear deep into memory. The howl became a sound that froze hearts, the gleam of eyes in darkness, a warning etched into instinct. From that night on, survival meant not just watching for lions in the grass, but listening for wolves in the night. To understand why wolves terrified our ancestors, you must see the beast as it was nearly 6 million years ago. These were not tame, domesticated creatures. They were raw muscle and bone, wildness made flesh, honed by countless generations of pursuit. A wolf's body was built for endurance. While lions could sprint and leopards could leap, wolves could run for hours. Their long legs and lean frames carried them across savannas, through forests, over hills, until their prey collapsed from exhaustion. Against such persistence, fragile humans stood little chance. A band could climb trees or scatter into the dark, but the wolves would wait, patient, circling, conserving energy until fear itself weakened their quarry. Their jaws were weapons of precision. Packed with teeth that could shear flesh and crush bone, a wolf's bite delivered force enough to snap a limb. The long canines punctured deep, holding fast while the rest of the pack tore at flanks. Their noses, sharp as any weapon, tracked blood and fear across vast distances. A wounded human could never hide. The wolves would find them. But their greatest weapon was not physical, it was social. Unlike the solitary leopard or the ambush-driven crocodile, wolves worked as one. They flanked prey, drove it into ambushes, communicated with growls, whines, and glances. No attack was random, every move was calculated, coordinated, and relentless. Our ancestors, small and scattered, had never faced a predator that hunted like this. A lion could be avoided, a hyena could be driven away. But wolves were different. They were organized. They mirrored humans in the very quality humans relied on most: cooperation. This is what made them terrifying. The wolf was not just an animal, it was a reflection of what humanity itself might become, a creature that survived not through strength alone, but through unity, cunning, and will. The first true attack came under the cover of dusk. The band had settled at the base of a tall tree, bellies half full from scavenged roots. Children dozed, mothers rocked them gently, while the men watched the horizon. Then it came. A low howl, answered by another and another. Shapes emerged from the grass, shadows melting into form. 6 wolves, lean and silent, spread out around the band. Their eyes glowed amber in the fading light. The humans shrieked, raising sticks, hurling stones. A rock struck one wolf's shoulder and it growled, retreating a step, but the others advanced. Then the pack surged. One wolf darted forward, snapping at a child, before being driven back by a mother's scream and a flurry of stones. Another lunged at the flank, jaws closing around an elder's arm. His cry split the air as blood ran down his skin. Panic tore through the group. Some scrambled up the tree, clutching children. Others swung sticks wildly, striking at shadows. The wolves tested relentlessly. They lunged and retreated, snapping, tearing, probing for weakness. The humans fought back with desperation, sticks thrust into open jaws, stones crashing against ribs. The clearing erupted with chaos. Howls, screams, the thud of blows, the crack of bone. At last, a lucky strike turned the tide. One stone, hurled with all the strength of a trembling arm, struck a wolf across the muzzle. The beast yelped, staggering, its nose bleeding. The pack hesitated. The humans seized the moment, screaming louder, throwing every stone they had. Slowly, reluctantly, the wolves withdrew, slipping back into the grass, their eyes still glowing from the shadows. The band clung to one another, panting, shaking, smeared with blood and mud. The elder lay wounded, his arm torn but intact. The children cried, their screams echoing long after the wolves had gone. That night, the humans learned a brutal truth. Wolves could be repelled, but never destroyed. They would come again, circling, testing, waiting. The battle was not over, it had only just begun. The attack had shown the band their weakness, but it also revealed a path forward. Alone, each human was prey fragile, small, easily torn apart. Together, however, they discovered something new, strength in formation. It began with instinct. In the moments of chaos, mothers had pulled children to the center, shielding them with their own bodies. Elders had pressed close, raising sticks, while the strongest males circled the edge, hurling stones and shouting. What was once panic became a pattern. By accident, they had formed the first defensive circle. In the days that followed, the memory of the wolves' assault sharpened into practice. When the sun dipped low and howls rose in the distance, the band no longer scattered in fear. They gathered tight, backs pressed to one another, faces outward. Each carried a stone in hand, a stick gripped tight, eyes scanning the dark. The smallest were hidden in the center, surrounded by the protective wall of adults. Noise became their weapon. Together they shouted, screamed, and stamped their feet, amplifying their presence until the night itself seemed to shake. Wolves, cunning and patient, still probed the edges, but they hesitated before the united fury of the band. This strategy was more than defense, it was transformation. It taught them that survival did not belong to the strongest individual, but to the group. Unity became instinct, loyalty a necessity. A child's cry was no longer just distress, it was a signal to tighten ranks. A fallen stone was not wasted, it was replaced instantly by another's throw. The wolves had forced them into something profound. They had turned fear into order, chaos into strategy. And though the humans still trembled at every glowing eye in the dark, they now had a weapon the wolves themselves understood: cooperation. But even with new defenses, the nights remained long and merciless. Without fire to push back the dark, the humans were exposed, huddled in circles, trembling as the world around them came alive with sound. The howls began first, low and distant, carried on the wind. Then, more voices joined, weaving into a chilling chorus. The sound surrounded them, echoing from every direction. It was not just communication, it was intimidation. The wolves sang their presence, reminding the humans that they were never alone. Eyes glowed in the blackness. Dozens of them, shifting just beyond reach. The band clutched one another tighter, children buried against their mothers' chests, elders clutching stones until their fingers bled. Every rustle of grass sent jolts of panic. Every snap of a twig could mean the charge had begun. The wolves circled for hours, sometimes lunging close, forcing screams and volleys of stones. They did not rush recklessly. They tested, probed, learning the rhythm of the human's defense. Exhaustion gnawed at the band. Eyes sagged, heads drooped, but no one dared sleep. Sleep meant silence, and silence meant death. Some nights, the wolves withdrew with the dawn, leaving the band hollow-eyed but alive. Other nights, they struck, lunging suddenly, their fangs flashing in moonlight. Each time, the humans fought back with the same desperate fury, shouting, throwing, striking, until the pack withdrew. Victory was never clean. It was survival, measured in wounds and scars, in breaths stolen from fear. The night was no longer a time of rest. It was a gauntlet, endured one howl at a time, and though terror consumed them, every night they survived was a lesson. They learned vigilance. They learned endurance. They learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the choice to face it, again and again, in the dark. For weeks, the band had endured the wolves' relentless tests. Night after night, they circled. Day after day, their howls echoed across the plains. Always the humans defended, Always they endured, but never had they turned the tables. That changed one desperate evening. The attack came just before dawn. The band, weary and hollow-eyed, had begun to relax, believing the night nearly over. That was when the wolves struck swift, coordinated, from two sides at once. One lunged straight into the circle, jaws snapping at a mother, clutching her child. Chaos erupted. Sticks flailed, stones flew, screams split the air. In the frenzy, one young male, driven by terror and rage, raised a jagged stone high and brought it down with all his strength. It struck the wolf's skull with a sickening crack. The beast yelped, staggering. Another human jabbed a sharpened stick into its side, and the wolf collapsed, thrashing in the dust. The pack froze. Their leader lay bleeding, twitching. The humans seized the moment, screaming in unison, hurling stones with renewed fury. Startled, the wolves pulled back, retreating into the grass. For the first time, the humans stood over a fallen predator. They approached cautiously, circling the still body. Blood stained the ground, its hot scent filling the air. The children clung to their mothers, wide-eyed. Elders prodded the carcass with sticks, half expecting it to rise again. When it did not, relief and awe swept through the band. The carcass became more than meat, it became a symbol. They dragged it to higher ground, examining its teeth, its claws, its hide. They tasted its flesh, strange and bitter, but nourishing. For the first time, they had not only survived a wolf attack, they had won. The memory burned deep into their minds. They had proven the impossible. Even the wolf could fall. From that moment, their fear carried a new edge, not just terror, but defiance. The humans were no longer only prey. They were fighters. The first kill changed everything. The wolves had been their tormentors, but now they became their teachers. Humans began to notice what made wolves so dangerous. They did not fight alone, they fought as one. Each wolf had a role. One lunged, another flanked, and others circled to cut off escape. Their strength was not just in jaws or speed, but in unity. The humans began to mimic them. They practiced circling together when faced with threats. They learned to throw stones in volleys, not one by one, but as a rain that confused and battered their enemies. They took note of the wolves' persistence, how they pursued prey for hours until exhaustion claimed it. And slowly, they applied the same patience in their own hunts, trailing weakened animals, striking only when sure of success. Even their communication changed. Just as wolves barked, whined, and howled to signal one another, the humans refined their guttural cries. A short, sharp call meant throw. A long, low growl meant hold. Children absorbed these sounds naturally, their games imitating both wolf howls and human screams, blending predator and prey into one survival language. The band also learned caution. From wolves, they understood the power of testing an enemy before striking. They began to approach rival bands the same way, probing, displaying, circling, retreating if necessary. The lessons learned in blood carried beyond the predator into human rivalry. But perhaps the deepest lesson was endurance. Wolves did not win every battle, but they never stopped. Their persistence itself was a weapon. The humans began to carry this truth in their hearts, that survival was not about strength alone, but about refusing to give in, no matter how many nights of terror passed. The wolves remained their enemies, their hunters, their nightmares. Yet they were also mirrors, reflections of what humanity might one day become. Creatures bound not only by blood, but by cooperation, strategy, and relentless will. The wolves were not the only hunters on the land, but they were among the most cunning. Lions ruled the open plains, hyenas stalked the night, leopards haunted the trees, and crocodiles owned the rivers. Yet wolves competed with all of them, and this rivalry shaped the lives of early humans, too. At carcasses, wolves were bold. A pack could drive off even hyenas if their numbers were strong, snapping and snarling in a storm of fur and fangs. Lions challenged them, but only with numbers of their own. Many nights, the savannah echoed with overlapping roars and howls, predators clashing in the dark while vultures circled above, waiting for the losers to fall. Humans watched from the edges. They dared not enter these violent contests, but they learned to scavenge from them. When wolves clashed with lions and left behind scraps, humans darted in, snatching bones still rich with marrow, licking fat from hides abandoned in the chaos. Risk was everywhere, but opportunity lived in the shadows of predator battles. Sometimes, this danger turned deadly. On one occasion, a band crept too close to a wolf kill. An antelope pulled down in the tall grass. They thought the pack had gone, but one lingered. It lunged from cover, scattering them in terror, tearing into the thigh of a lagging elder. The humans fought back, stones and screams filling the air until the wolf retreated. The elder survived, scarred forever, a living warning that wolves shared nothing freely. But humans also noticed something else. Wolves, though fierce, did not always dominate. Lions scattered them, leopards snatched their kills, crocodiles claimed what they dragged too close to the water's edge. Even the mightiest predator could be humbled. This gave humans hope. If wolves could be driven away by lions, then perhaps they too could be driven away if humans acted as one. Wolves taught them fear, but they also revealed the balance of the wild. No predator was invincible, no kill uncontested. In that fragile truth, humans found their place not as rulers, not yet, but as survivors who watched, learned, and endured among giants. The encounters with wolves did not end in that distant age. They shaped humanity forever. The howl in the night became more than a sound. It was an instinct, a signal of danger etched so deeply into memory that even today, the cry of a wolf chills the blood. Those glowing eyes in the darkness became a symbol of vigilance, of the need to watch, always, for threats that move unseen. The wolves taught humans to unite, defensive circles, shared shouts, coordinated volleys of stones. These were not accidents, but the birth of strategy. Wolves showed them that cooperation was stronger than strength, that unity could repel even the fiercest predator. This was a lesson that would echo across millennia, carried into every struggle humanity faced. They also taught resilience. Wolves never gave up a hunt. They trailed prey until exhaustion broke it. Humans absorbed this persistence, carrying it into their own survival, pursuing food, enduring drought, resisting rivals. In the wolf's patience, humanity found its own, but perhaps the greatest legacy was reflection. The wolves were not only enemies, they were mirrors. They showed humans what it meant to live and fight as a group, to think beyond the individual, to survive by standing together. In the shadow of the pack, humans glimpsed their own future. The legacy of the wolf was double-edged: fear and courage, danger and inspiration. They haunted humanity's nights, but they also shaped humanity's will. And in that paradox lay the truth. To endure in a world of predators, humans had to become more than prey. For our ancestors, the wolves were terror in the night. They were the glowing eyes at the edge of the fireless dark, the chorus of howls that froze the blood, the sudden rush of bodies from the grass. Many lives ended in those jaws. Many nights were spent trembling under the weight of their presence. And yet, from that terror, humanity grew stronger. Wolves forced them to circle together, to shout as one, to wield stones and sticks with purpose. Wolves taught them that fear could be faced, that unity could defy strength, that survival was born not from isolation, but from community. In every howl, they heard both a threat and a lesson. In every glowing eye, they saw both death and a mirror of what they themselves could become. Creatures bound not just by blood, but by cooperation and will. The humans who endured did more than survive wolf attacks. They carried forward instincts that still live in us today: vigilance in the dark, loyalty to the group, the courage to fight together against overwhelming odds. If this story of humanity's earliest battles against wolves inspired you, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and share it, so we can continue uncovering the brutal struggles that shaped the human spirit.